Hey folks, I wasn't planning on doing another video until I talked about Invincible, but this interaction interested me just a little bit too much. So a couple of hours ago, the Majority Report with Sam Seder uploaded a conversation between Dennis Prager and Ron, a fictional character invented to give this conversation pretext. And it didn't get into things as deeply as I would have liked it to, but I mostly blame that on the stupid radio show format than anything else. But there was one moment that interested me quite a bit, and I'll just show it to you here.
I never totally agreed with John McCain about all things, but when he distanced himself in 2008 from Hagee, I thought that was the right thing to do.
Okay, so we now entered a third arena. They're all related.
Exactly.
Let me just say this about John Hagee. First of all, I never, ever judge people on the basis of their beliefs. I'm sure you're annoyed when Christians think you're going to hell because you don't believe in Christ. So why are you annoyed with John Hagee for his religious beliefs?
Yes, you heard that right. Dennis Prager doesn't judge people for their beliefs. Now, this might be one of the most ridiculous lies that I have heard in a long time. So ridiculous that you probably have to ask yourself why on earth Dennis would say it at all. And I think one possible answer you might give to that is, well, he's appealing to the Platonic ideal of civility politics, right? He wants to present himself as this high-minded intellectual who talks about ideas and not people. I think that's definitely part of it, and I understand why someone would say that, but I think there's a better answer to that. And to find that answer, we should probably ask ourselves, who is this guy that Dennis is such a big fan of? In other words, how much you want to bet this guy is the most deranged person you've ever heard of? John Hagee is an end times televangelist. And I know, I could probably stop it there, right? I don't know if there exists one of those that isn't the worst person you know. But if you'll believe it, it gets worse. Let's take you through this guy's greatest hits album. He's claimed that Hitler was a descendant of evil half-breed Jews, that the persecution Jewish people have faced throughout history, including the Holocaust, was their own fault for disobeying God, and he campaigned for George Wallace's presidential bid. If that name sounds familiar to you, that's this guy.
And I say segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.
And that's not even the quote that everyone knows this guy for. You know, claiming that Hitler was sent to get the Jews back in Israel. To quote myself, but if you'll believe it, it gets worse. The full quote not only states that Hitler was sent by God to get the Jews back to Israel, but that he specifically did so because he wanted them out of other places in the world. Yeah, this guy is a fucking bastard. A man who clearly only cares about Israel insofar as it fulfills his end times prophecy and does not give a shit about Jewish people otherwise. You could not find a worse ally if you tried. So why does Dennis support this guy? Why does he celebrate his inclusion at pro-Israel rallies? Quite frankly, I think the reason for this is quite simple. It's that he's in a precarious position right now. He's a member of a political bloc that would happily see him erased from existence. His own audience is full of anti-Semites. I did a video about that if you're curious. He has to align himself with Zionist anti-Semites because he's that limited in his options. Zionism is the one position that many anti-Semites agree with him on, both because a lot of right-wingers lean very heavily on the ethno-nationalism and thus are pretty okay with the idea that, you know, all the Jewish people live over there, and also because it fulfills some Christian end times prophecy that of course sees unrepentant Israelites destroyed and killed. I honestly think that this moment is just kind of a frightening reminder of just how far Dennis has to bend over backwards to keep the right from completely tearing him apart. He's desperately trying to identify with his fascist followers. Don't you see, he says, I hate Muslims just as much as you guys. He'll lie and say he doesn't judge people based off their religious beliefs, specifically when it pertains to blatantly anti-Semitic Christians, and then he'll turn around and say that Palestinians want to destroy Israel because of their religion in a video entitled, Why Do Palestinians Hate Israel?
What is the root cause, the basic reasons that the Palestinians do not want Israel to exist? ISLAM. It doesn't matter. For most Palestinians, if Israel were as big as Brooklyn, they would still want it destroyed. There's no room for a non-Muslim sovereign state in the Middle East in most Palestinians' views.
So yeah, in summary, fuck you, Dennis Prager. Subscribe to me instead, where I can, at the barest of minimums, assure you that I won't be aligning with a guy who campaigned for the segregation dude.